Hello everyone. Welcome back to the stream. Today we are at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for round 7, the penultimate round of our 100 series. I'm going to get out straight away as we are here for qualifying. There we go. Right on cue at the end of pit lane. I did just grip the inside wall there a little bit. So yes, we are here at the Circuit Spa-Francorchamps for the penultimate round. Obviously Spa, quite a high-speed circuit. Has a bit of tyre wear, isn't the worst, but does have some long straights. That means when it comes to the race, we will need to save energy about 10% per lap, sort of similar to Imola this season. But of course, first we are into our 15-minute qualifying session. It is going to be flat out. Cool conditions here in the evening, Spa. Just after 9 o'clock. Temperatures just over 20 degrees. As we open up bus stop chicane to start our first flying lap. Now, all the practice I did was for lifting and coasting in the race. So I kind of need to reacclimatize myself with braking points a little bit. Running good light there. Onto the gravel. Not ideal. Purple sectors at the moment. I got the braking wrong for the bus stop. I'll have another 2 laps. Then we'll come into the pits and get a new set of tyres. much better on the brakes through the bus stop. Like that getting for a second. I'll not have the fuel to go for another lap here. So we'll need to put a little bit more in. Put a new set of softs on. I just want to say 91, 95, 95, 93. I'm a little bit two-sided on how to approach the race regarding tyres. Definitely got a little bit of time left in the lap. Oops, someone has got themselves in stop-go in the GT3 field. We've got 12 in each class. 24 drivers, that should be good. So let's go out for a second run. Late for cool tires still. Still got a second gap to cars behind, which I don't know where that's come from. Five and a half minutes left in session. That is 3 flying laps. Not as good through the source this time. Bit of time up through the calm. slightly up. Lost a little bit of time here. Little bit slower. Oh, come on, that is so stupid. I need to get going. I don't have time. I was thinking, oh, I should put the fuel down, but I don't have time. If I do, I wouldn't get another that bin. 2 minute dead. Yeah, I'm not getting a 2 minute dead. But that is so annoying. The track limits since the update have been scuffed. Can't afford to take it too easy on this side lap. As best as I can. Not as important here as the timing line is taken at the start line, not the normal control line used by series at Spa, which is sort of by the start of pit lane. A little better through T1. Not a good line through Arrouge. Yeah, I lost myself like 2 times with that bad line. be getting pole position. Again, there's a little bit of time here up towards the bus stop. It's a little too late on the brakes. A little bit of time in the lap, but ultimately I still don't think it was enough for pole position. Yeah, starting on the front row again. So now the question is, what do we do? Everyone was on soft tires there for qualifying. 22 ambient temperature, 20 track temp. The race starts at 10 o'clock in game, so it's another hour later than what practice was. So it could be a little bit cooler.
Drivers go to the grid for a race start.
No, it's the same temperatures. It's a few degrees cooler than what practice was. I kind of want to go bold. I want to go with something different. Our one lap pace isn't too bad. A lot of people opting for a medium tire. Interesting. Interesting. As you might realize, I have a plan here. I'm just waiting a moment to reveal my hand. So yeah, it looks like first few are going mediums. Top 4, except for us, top 5 even. I'm going to put mediums on the fronts because they were a little bit more than the rears. So that'll hopefully allow them to survive a little bit longer. It won't be ideal for lap 1, you know, in the short term, but over the race, I'm hoping this is the best balance.
Formation lap has started.
Top if I shifted into first. On the outside for T1, we got a good start at Monza last week, but messed up the braking for T1. Braking, gotta be wary of the cool tires. The tires are quite cold. Not stone cold, but quite cold. Here we are, ready for the start.
Green flag, green flag.
Look at that runoff. T1. I had to lift for the cut. I missed the braking point again. I could have had the lead there, but absolutely bottled it. by hitting fuel numbers. Of course, it's not just the medium front tires, but it's a full tank of fuel now. Yeah, so if you're wondering, the energy number we're looking for is by 4.1. Of a gap to the car behind. I don't know if they're energy saving. They didn't seem to be on lap 1. Car in the lead is going for it. They're not fuel saving at all. Forgot to turn the energy down. Car behind it, fastest lap of the race. surprised that didn't come up as anything, given that what happened in quali. So despite having softer tires, medium fronts are still wearing more than the rears. Purple final sector. So the Peugeot in front is at this point committing to a two-stop strategy. They're not committed, but if they continue as are, they're committing. And at the pace they have, it might work for them still. We're keeping pace with the cars behind and we're using less energy doing so. This lap hasn't been too great. Yeah, we have good traction with the softer tire. I think that's what it is. I think that really helped us on the first lap. Bit awkward. I couldn't wait for the Mustang, as too close. To lift there, otherwise it's going to catch BMW in the middle of a Rouge there. Out of the source again. Like we just break the slipstream with the acceleration there. Dude, I made a mistake. Hey, not as bad as the McLaren limping home in the IRL 24 hours of Spa. That's deep into T1. Everyone else. Battle for P4. Cadillac on soft tires. Currently holding on to that position with the Porsche, Alpine and Ferrari in that train. Two of them on medium tires, two of them on softs. have a lap more energy than the car in front. That's going to take us to the halfway mark, whereas the leader's going to be a little bit short of it. I can't wish where it says 100% V required. I can't wish that said like how much you needed for the rest of the race. Like, in total. Like, if I needed 151% right now, if I needed 155. Because at this point in time, it's not particularly useful. It's like, yeah, I know I'm gonna need 100% in the pit stop. But am I looking good to make it to the end of the race with that pit stop? Mustang taking a very wide line there. Appreciate that moving over. bit deep. This time's gonna stay right there. Fair enough. At least they made that pretty clear. They just stuck to the white line, and it's like, alright, that's what they're doing. There was no second guessing. Sector 1. Interesting. The slipstream from the fry helped. Was gonna work. Underestimated the acceleration there. Couldn't feel safe there because I wanted to get the move done. Great lap, or 2 in traffic. Certainly lost us a bit of time, but that's multi-class. I could definitely brake a little bit later to the bus stop there, but I don't see the point. Okay, game is saying this is going to be 48 laps remaining at this point. So we will make sure we can get to lap 24. Which I believe we will do. See, flat out, I think you would do about 22 laps. Ooh, that was close. Falling out of my rhythm a little bit. Lost a bit of time to the fry, though that might have been traffic. It lost time there to the Porsche. Good Porsche teamwork there. No, we are not fixing this. That's a joke. around a bit more on the tires. I don't really want to change 2 tires. I want to change all 4 if I do change tires. That decision when we get to the pit stop, I guess. Frank made a mistake. They've dropped back 13 seconds to bring the gap up to 17 seconds. Now, yeah, 2:16 last lap. Practically at a 2-lap difference for fuel compared to the leader now. See, those on the soft tires will be struggling with front understeer at this point. in. 1 hour to go. Yeah, if we didn't change tires, I think the front tires would be dead. Unlike last week, there's no weather that's gonna intervene, gonna make it easier for the other driver, for us to save fuel, shorten the race by a lap. Leaders in. They could have done one more lap, but they've come in this lap 7 minutes from the halfway mark. That's going to be a guaranteed 2-stop. We're going to go 3 more laps. We aren't going to make the halfway mark. I didn't lift enough at the bottom there. Yeah, if I didn't change tires, the front left would be at like 10% by the end of the race. Cyrus. There is a chance to win here. But if we don't make any mistakes, I think we've still got second secured. I need to set up the pit strategy for 2 laps time. Fry behind's going to be pitting this lap. They're still 4 minutes away from the halfway mark. New medium, new soft. I'm the only one to have mixed and matched tire compounds for the first stint at least, and I think it's worked really well. I've limited the understeer that I'd get, especially at this late end of the stint. Oh, Fry's got DT as well. BMW pulls into the pit lane. Maybe could go flat out on this final lap. Nah, I'm not getting that Porsche. Oh, that's really annoying. That lost me a second and a half. I was a little bit safe there. "53-second pit stop. New mediums front, new mediums rear, 100% energy as you guess to the end of the race." Peugeot goes by. Start the car on the electric. We'll still be clear in P2. Question is if we'll be close enough to the Peugeot. Cold tires. Oh, a car felt horrible up Erosion Rally on there. Cadillac's committed to two-stop only half filling. Fastest lap of the race for the Peugeot. They know. I think they've realised about the strategy difference. They're like, yeah, they've got to push if they want to win this race. I think they have the gap, to be honest. You never know. Track's down to 18 degrees. That will hopefully help timer a little bit. In the second half of the race. They still have to make another stop though. Glad that Mustang made their intention to go to the right hand side of the track very clear. Like in the do's and don'ts of GT3s or the lower class and multi-class racing, that is a do. You can cross the track, but do it in advance of the hypercar catching you, and do it in a very deliberate manner. That is clear to the faster car behind you. Purple final sector. That's a curve facing the wrong way. lap. I didn't save as much fuel as I should have been. If it wasn't for the GT3 traffic, I probably would have set personal best. Seconds off. Also, when the car gets lighter towards the end of the stint and the tires aren't as good, you end up saving a little bit of energy or using a little bit less naturally. The car's lighter, so technically you're a little more fuel efficient. Plus the tires are worn, so you don't carry as much throttle through corners, and as such, you save energy that way. So I don't mind being a little bit down at the moment. Being 2/10 up now, part of me wants to push for a lap. just going very slowly. That's a current and out lap, I think, looking at the relative. I wonder if they've lost the car going into a rouge and pushing a little too hard on cold tyres and killed the engine. lights I've seen earlier. Maybe it was in headlights. 3 minutes left in the race. Fuel safe there to make sure I go in front of the McLaren. Been a real dive bomb to get past, to have gone past the BMW. Done a horrible job setting this take up. And then look at the front. Yeah, that's really perfect. It's moments like that, if I was trying to win this race, it's moments like that that would be catastrophic. minute ahead of everyone else. Turned into the late. still a few cars that need to pit as well. Is really making me wish there was a 25 kilometer mode. Come on, Porsche. That's an example of a don't. With the Mustang earlier, it went to one side, it changed side, but it stayed to one side of the track. It did not linger in the middle of the track. That Porsche, you know, I was like, okay, it's either going to stay right or go to the left. It didn't stay right, so I was like, right. I'm going to set myself up to the right because I think it'll go left. And then it sort of did... I'm distracting myself now. But yeah, I couldn't even tell you what that Porsche was doing. That's a problem. I think the Porsche also got a little too caught up in what I was doing, instead of just making a decision for itself and sticking to it. It got indecisive, trying to guess what I was going to do, and in the end it just created an awkward and ultimately dangerous situation. Catching a fry that just completed its out lap. Is on a set of medium tires, so they may still be a little bit that fry will be needing to feel safe. We do. That might make them a little bit quicker than we are. Might not have new medium tires. Might be old medium. Might not have changed tires. Okay, getting a bit of slipstream here. That's very consistent the last 2 laps. They were within 6,000ths of each other. Right over the curb there. Run onto the grass. Trying to use your slipstream. I still need to hit my fuel number though. Leader into the pits. They need about 20% of energy. Flashing at the BMW to make sure that they've seen that there's 2 hypercars passing and not just one. That BMW has been involved in a few multi-class incidents over the last few months. Yeah, we're still 26 seconds behind the leader. They only lost 30-ish seconds. A little over. Lifting coast there to make sure I go past the GT3 Ferrari. 10 minutes left in the race. Ooh, game's now saying it's going to be one more lap, which is definitely true. I mean, I can pit, but I'd rather not. Make a move. Make a good move. DT for the Toyota. Save energy, that's how you waste energy. Three laps to go. We need to save 1% per lap compared to like max flat out. That's not enough energy saved. That's the line. The curves early. I'm really surprised that didn't give me a track warning with how far off I was. leader, I think, has just crossed the line to start the final lap. I've got to play it safe. Oops, I've new tires selected. Which I shouldn't have. Because now we're going to have cool tires for the out lap. Funny thing is, a couple of the people that pitted, or one of the people that pitted at least, because they pitted, they're now a lap down, and so they might have been alright on energy. Well, second place, that's a good result, so it is. Yeah, I'll take that. I don't think we had the pace for the win. It might have been close on the strategy. Had I played it right. I saved a little bit too much fuel in the first stint, and I didn't save enough in the second. Yeah. Yeah, I think the strategy worked out well. It's the right strategy. Yeah, I saved a little bit too much fuel. I had what, like 1%, like 1.5% left. At the end of the first stint, I could have got away with what I was doing in the second stint, in the first stint, but then the second stint, because it went to 49 laps, I needed to save more fuel. The difference was a 24 lap stint needed uh, yeah, a 24 lap stint needed 4.16. So that was the number I was aiming for. A 49 lap race needed 4.08% a lap, but of course, that doesn't really work out because you then have to make your first pit stop at 24 and a half laps, and you obviously just can't do that. Um, so then you need to split up into 24 stint, which is 4.16, or a 25 lap stint, which of course 25 is score of 100, is just 4%, which would have been quite a bit of fuel save. Yeah. So yeah, I miscalculated that one. I mean, I would have been what, 15 seconds further up the road if I didn't take new tires in the second pit stop. But yeah, interesting race. We're going to finish off with a bit of Art of Rally, so we are. Run the daily event. But yeah, let's run the daily event. And then that'll be it for the stream. Group 3 car at Japan, 10-kilometer stage. Got a Porsche. Stage. Went for that cut, just ran that the game wasn't going to reset me. stint. Big cut there as well. Turned in a little late for the final corner. Ooh, that's an interesting physics moment. Car bouncing up into the air. We get 21st, top 5%, 12.8 seconds off at the end with 344.9. Now, but stage time could be a little bit quicker, but not much. Yeah, good race. We almost got the strategy right that race with these 100 series races. They are all about strategy, and we nearly got it. I think the tire choice worked out very well. The medium fronts meant that they could survive pretty well throughout the whole stint. The balance of the car was good, and the soft rears meant that we got really good traction. And like that should have got us the lead at the start of the race. The soft rear tires. Yeah, it was really good race. But I did mess up strategy then at the end. I was saving too much fuel in the first stint. I was kind of going for that 4.08 number when I should have been going for the 4.16. And then the second stint, I did go for the 4.16, thinking, oh, it'll be a 48 lap race. In hindsight, 49 lap race should have been hitting a 4.00 or really 3.9 something. But yeah, that was my mistake. GG's, Ben. Yeah, I didn't have the pace. Yeah, just saying. If I saved too much fuel in the first stint, and then I thought, oh, 48 lap race, I can just use a bit more fuel, and then it's like, oh, I need a lap extra. I tried saving for it in the final 5 laps when I realized, hang on, this is going to be an extra lap, but to save, like 4% in 5 laps, that was too much to ask. So yeah, GG's. I should have had you off the start. Those softer tires did give some brilliant traction. I wasn't expecting it. I was just sort of merely hoping to hold second, as maybe challenge for first, but those soft rears compared to the full mediums were really good. You realised what I was doing on second stint was your second stint was full push. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have the pace anyway. I mean, you were still 20 odd seconds when you came out of the pits. The second time. Yeah. I knew the soft were better grip, they maybe slightly better temperature window. I also noticed, hang on, the front tires are wearing a bit more, they're a bit hotter. Hang on, maybe the rears, the fronts will work as mediums, But the softs will work at the rears where they're a bit cooler and not getting as worn, and that'll help keep the car balanced throughout the stint. And yeah, it worked really well. Um, I'm surprised no one conned on to that for the second stint, um, and decided to follow suit. But yeah, I mean, if I got away with breaking into T1 as a little bit deep, but it gave me a good exit on. You didn't want to change tires, but you flat spotted them really bad first stint. Uh, I mean, what was your percentage at the end of the first stint? Because my front left was like 54%. So I knew like I was going to be down to like 10% at the end of the race on the front left, as I didn't want to risk it. Even with the medium front tires, the front left was still wearing quite a bit. About 50 first stop. Yeah. Yeah, so you would have, I think you would have really struggled towards the end if you didn't. Bit less at the end. Yeah, it makes sense. The temperatures were a little bit cooler at the end. It was about 20 track temp at the start and 17 by the end. So yeah, it makes sense that they weren't quite as bad. And then you're probably just driving a little bit better in the second stint. You know, the first stint, getting into the rhythm, that's fighting a little bit. You know, that's when you're likely to make a mistake or flat spot the tires. You know, the traffic is a little bit more chaotic when you catch them for the first and second time, whereas later on the race, they're a little bit more spread out, so they're easier to deal with. I love reasons why, you know, they're not going to be as bad for the second stint. But yeah, good race again. Also, very satisfying pole lap. 2 minutes dead. That was nice. That was nice indeed. Um, yeah, thanks for popping in and chatting at the end. GG's. Really conscious straight line speed. Yeah, I went lowest wing, P1. As like, hey, there's straights here. Let's just try it. And it's like, hey, the car feels fine. So it's like, yeah, it felt worth it. It might not have been the exact best for overall lap time, but it's like race pace, it's gonna be good. Or raceability, racecraft is gonna be useful. You had P15. Ooh. Yeah, that could have been a very different race. Because then with the slipstream, you could probably keep up. I doubt you would be able to close in on the slipstream. I noticed a couple of cars as around when I was lapping them, is like in the slipstream, like they didn't even close in. They were just keeping pace with me. So yeah, the wing was really strong in that regard. But the lift and coast I was doing, I think we've given you a good opportunity, especially towards the end of the middle sector. Like you were struggling to lap people in the streets. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. But I feel like you would have got opportunity out of Puon. You would have like maybe closed in a bit into Puon as I lifted into Puon, and then on the exit, bit of slipstream to keep you close, and then get to the inside when I lifted. It would have been very difficult for me to decide how much I wanted to keep to lifting and coasting to keep you behind, or if as like I've just got to lift and let you go. Then fighting back with straight line speed, it would have been really interesting. Yeah, but with the GT3s, yeah, I find that even having driven the GT3s, I always get caught out. Like I get up to the back of one, I'm like, oh yeah, this will be fine. And they'll not be too slow, and then I nearly go into the back of them. I was like, oh, I really misjudged that. Your instinct almost sort of tells you that hang on, they could be going faster through there, but then if you were in the car, you probably wouldn't be doing much quicker yourself. So yeah, but yeah, put on. Yeah, put on. I felt like the car was gripping quite well too. Like the main thing was it was stable. Um, like at first when I was starting to practice on starting practice, even with a slightly higher wing, the car was a little unstable going into Rouge, but I just made sure to be sort of extra smooth with my inputs with the steering through a Rouge, and is completely fine even on the lowest wing. Low speed for you was very sketchy, like traction out of corners or braking, like entry or exit or mid corner as well, I guess. Mid and exits mainly. See, that's probably where if you put softer tires, that's probably what would have balanced the car out. Because the first time I ran medium front soft rears was in the race, and that's the most comfortable I felt with the balance of the car. Um, except quali wasn't too bad on the four softs and low fuel, but in the initial race runs I was doing, it did feel a little bit sketchier with either medium rears or soft all round. So yeah, I mean, I think if you'd gone softer tires, you'd probably have been more likely to have held me off at the start, better to fight back, and then maybe just had a little bit better pace throughout the stint if it did solve that balance issue for you. I'd be curious to know, like, if you wanted to, you weren't expecting it to be nighttime. Yeah, I go, man, I barely look at the settings for the weather. I just take in, have a look, and do some laps, and then see kind of where you end up with. Um, but yeah, when you do get those cooler conditions, you know, I think it's also like I don't. I think as the only person in that race that mixed compounds, I feel like it's so like mixing compounds is such a useful thing in this game that a lot of people um a lot of people really forget about or overlook. Like, and this race, I think it's quite useful. Portimao putting a hard tire on the front left and medium rest way round is a good choice. I think people are sleeping on it a little bit. You got to call in all your references were gone. Uh, as someone who doesn't do that much practice, I generally don't go into sessions with precise references. I have a rough reference, but then I need to nail it down during the session, especially jumping between race, quali. I mean, generally, when I start doing race practice, I'm not fuel saving, so I'll get a reference point there. Then I'll be like, right, now I need to see the lap time, see the fuel usage, and get an idea. Right, how much fuel saving? Oh, I need to save like 0.3 or 0.4% a lap. Right, let's practice fuel saving, and then you're finding references of where to lift and then where to brake because they change around. And then you get to quali, and it's like, oh well, you're going flat out now. You don't need to lift and coast. Um, yeah, your only practice was the actual session. Yeah, my I did a 30-minute session in coolish conditions, not as cold. A little bit warmer, only a few degrees warmer. Mainly just to get the thumbnail for the stream, but yeah, just to also get some reference points in and get a little bit of an idea of how the car was. And that's where I did a little bit of test the wing. I also tested running short gears, because the long gears felt very long. It felt a little bit too long. I was like, let's just try long gears, and I wasn't hitting the limiter, but it's very close, and that was on 3 wing. So when I went down to 1 wing, I was like, let's just stick with long, especially in a slipstream run. I'll need them. Yeah, it is interesting. I also think the long ratio set was going to work better for some corners. Um, Potentially. I didn't test it that detailed. Yeah, it's interesting to see how the delta fluctuated on some acceleration zones between the long gears and short gears. You could see where your gear shifts were with the other set, because you'd suddenly just start gaining a little bit of time on your delta, then you'd shift and then equalize a bit, and then or you'd start losing a little bit because of your shift. It's quite intriguing. It was. Were you running like one of the default or CDI setups that's in the game? A good way to tell is when you were getting up to the com at the end of the Camel Straight, were you really high in your rev range, or were you quite short? Like, were you close to the rev limiter, or were you a bit lower in the rev range? Because if you were low in the rev range, then that'd indicate a short box. If you were getting close to the rev limiter, that'd indicate long box if you were low in the rev range, short if you were close to the limiter. Bang in the middle. Yeah, I see how that's not telling. Yeah, that's not too bad. You don't want to be too low in the gear, um, which I was a little bit worried about with the long gears. But of course, you do want a little bit of room for slipstream speed, because that can gain you like 10 kilometers an hour. So you don't want to get into someone's slipstream and then just hit the rev limiter and not be able to pass them at all. But yeah, again, good race. Well done on the win. Hopefully we can have another. Hopefully it will be a good race. Hopefully a little bit closer. Next week at where are we next week? Next week we are at Imola. No, not Imola. I'm looking at the wrong page. Sebring. Sebring will be interesting. I'm curious to see how much fuel save will be, if and how much, if it is, fuel saving will be required for it. Should be an interesting one. I'm curious to see the tire situation for it as well. Yeah, hopefully it can be a little bit closer. Maybe I can pass you on lap, even if I don't beat you in qualifying. Maybe I can pass you on lap one this time and not bottle it. That's 2 weeks in a row. I've had a run in the opening sector and just braked too late, gone in deep, and given a potential lead up. So yeah. Thank you very much for joining, for chatting. Good racing. Thank you, Iris, for popping in earlier on as well. I'll be back tomorrow, maybe. Might do some rallying tomorrow. Might have more LMU. We didn't see. Need to see if I confirm something for tomorrow night. But yeah, I might have something going in the way. Good night. Yes, good night to you too. Yep, so might have double stream tomorrow, might not. We'll see what happens. And then we have the final round 100 series next week, as mentioned at Sebring. Hopefully, there'll be another interesting race. Curious to see how strategy goes for that, as this was very interesting at Spa. Perfect. This is a very good race length for strategy. It's very interesting, and I'm really enjoying the series. Yeah, thank you again all very much for watching. Hopefully, I'll see you next time. Till then, take care, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye.